What's going on YouTube? So I'm standing next to the all-new 2023 Toyota Prius, which of course has a lot of design enhancements, looks a lot more sexy than before, but it is still fundamentally a Prius and it gets excellent fuel economy. This right here is the XLE example. This is a more affordable example, which actually comes in at under $31,000 for fantastic fuel economy. So in this somewhat challenging economic environment, is this a great buy which is going to save you money when you first buy it and at the pump? Let's go ahead and find out. So the Toyota Prius in previous generations has been, I guess we could say, various shades of ugly. You've had some more traditional shapes. You've had some shapes that look like a doorstop. Thankfully, this one here is going for a more dynamic look than any of the previous generations, and it is certainly quite sleek. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning, this is the XLE trim level, so this does have a more affordable price tag and a more value-packed feature set. And thankfully, this really looks exactly the same as the fully loaded limited trim level in terms of your overall design. So let's take a look at our grille. As you can see, we do have a sleek finish up here at the front. You've got a single slot that's going to run across the top here. Down below, you have a wider lower fascia that goes across through here, and you do have a piano black finish which goes through here, and I think that looks pretty sophisticated overall. I am noticing the Toyota badging is not blue tinted like it is on other Toyota hybrids, so that's a new thing for this new generation. Another thing that sticks around between the XLE and the limited trim level is your bi-LED headlights. Really nice look to these. Once again, very sleek. As you can see, it starts all the way over here. It's going to run through here. You've got your LED low and high beam, a daytime running light and turn signal indicator which bends around and comes up through here. And furthermore, a lot of people miss this detail. You do have another LED accent down here at the bottom as well. Next up, we have our wheel options. So these are going to be 19-inch alloy wheels, which once again is actually the same exact alloy wheel option shared with the fully loaded limited trim level. These are very nice looking wheels. You don't have any crazy aero covers or anything like that. They've just got a nice classic contrast look. Also contrasting with the paint color is the fact that around the wheel arches you do again have that piano black accenting, and you'll see that repeated once again at your mirrors. These mirrors have standard heating as well as standard blind spot monitoring.
So you've heard about it all before. This new Prius looks a lot better than the previous generation, and a lot of that has to do with its side design. Now, as far as the overall length, I do have those figures now. We're looking at 181.1 inches, but really, the main thing is that this all-new Prius's roofline is actually 2 inches lower than the previous generation, which gives it a sleek coupe-like appearance. And also giving it that sleek coupe-like appearance would be the fact that we actually have no door handle integrated right here. It's integrated up here in this part of the door, which of course does help with your aerodynamics as well as that sleek design. Now, moving around to the rear design of the all-new Prius, we are going to have a nice look to it. Certainly, this is a huge improvement over the previous generation models, and dare I say, I actually really like the way this looks. Now, gone is the split window design of the previous generation model, so you just have the nice sloping roofline right through here. We have what appears to be kind of an integrated spoiler. It's going to be fully blacked out. And then that takes us down to our tail lamps. Our tail lamps are going to be full-length LED, so you have the LED accenting, LED brake light, incandescent, or actually LED, amber turn signal indicator, and then our reverse light is going to be integrated down here, and that is also LED. We're going to have Prius spelled out across the back. It's going to be in a nice black finish. And then I do want to point out this is our new Beyond Zero Toyota emblem. This is actually the first model in the Toyota lineup to have that, and then this indicates this is the regular hybrid model. If you go for the plug-in hybrid, it will have Prime badging. And then down here in the very bottom, as you would expect, this is a Prius after all, so we're not going to have any very aggressive diffuser or exposed exhaust outlets, but overall it has a pretty attractive design. Now, Toyota does an excellent job about including safety systems on all of their models, even the more affordable ones, and that's going to continue for this all-new Prius. So every single model is going to have their newest Toyota Safety Sense 3.0 system, which includes all of your standard stuff like forward emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane keeping assist, auto high beams, and adaptive cruise control. And of course, being the newest system, it also has their most advanced capabilities, which are very, very advanced and will help keep you out of a lot of accidents. Now, as far as your warranty information is concerned, we're going to have Toyota Signature Warranty. It's going to be 3-year, 36,000 miles for your basic warranty, 5-year, 60,000 miles for your powertrain. They're also going to include 2 years and 24,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. But guys, that's it for the sleek exterior design of this all-new Prius. Let's check out the technologically advanced cabin.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into the interior. Before we hop inside, though, this is what your smart key entry system looks like. It is going to be included on the XLE trim level, and you can additionally option on Toyota's digital key on the XLE. Then to get inside the vehicle, just grab behind the handle, we'll unlock the door, and the vehicle does play a little sound effect that's different from the typical Toyota. Now taking a first look inside of the cabin, it does have some BZ4X inspiration, and it's also a lot more traditional looking than the previous generation. Let's go ahead and climb inside and take a look at all the details on this more value-oriented trim level. Now first off, let's go ahead and talk interior material and color selections. So one of the nice things about the XLE trim level is that just like the Limited, it does come with Toyota's Soft-Tex leatherette seating material. Only the base LE will come with cloth. As you can see, this is a nice and premium looking seat. You do have nice perforation all through here. It's a very smooth, pretty realistic feeling leatherette. Also like the color contrast piping that we have. As you can see, we've got the light color option. This is gray. You can also choose black if you prefer. Now turning over to the seat controls themselves, these are going to be 8-way power adjusting seats with 2-way lumbar support. As we move up here to our door trim, you're going to find some of the same looking materials from the seating. It's a little bit of a darker gray, but we do have that color on the door trim. Nicely padded plastic, leatherette down here on the bottom. All 4 windows are one-touch automatic, but if you want memory seating, you will have to choose the Limited trim. Taking a look at the broader material quality, in front of the driver, this is going to be a hard touch plastic. However, this section of the dashboard is going to be a nice padded plastic. As we move down below that, we do have a faux aluminum trim that's going to run all through the center area. You've got some piano black accents that are going to run through that part, as well as all down through the center console. There's no leather padding on the console for this trim level. However, everything does fit together extremely well in that typical Toyota fashion. And this is a pre-production model, but it's still very, very sturdy. Now, on the XLE and above, press the button to start. Now, of course, being a Prius, you won't necessarily have the engine fire up when you start it up. Actually, most of the time, you won't have that happen at all. And once you do that, you are going to see one of our kind of big 2023 changes. You do have a gauge cluster now. As you remember, the Prius previously just had that one central display. Now you've got something right in front of the driver, which I do appreciate. Just like with the BZ4X, it's an interesting 7-inch display. As you can see, it's pushed pretty far away, so it's kind of a combination between a traditional gauge cluster and a head-up display. Depending on how you position the steering wheel, you might block out some of it, but for the most part, it is fine. And as you can see, it does have some hybrid gauges on board as well. Now pulling back to the steering wheel, we do have the same design as the BZ4X. It's kind of a thick-looking piece in the middle and some large chunky buttons here on the side. Nicely leather-wrapped. We do have rain-sensing wipers, surprisingly, on the XLE trim level and the Limited. And then the steering wheel itself is going to be manual, tilt, and telescoping. Let's go ahead and take a look at some interior storage options. So I'll first open up our center console here. As you can see, pretty decently sized. We do have a felt lining inside as well. You've got two USB-C ports right there. Up in front of that, though, we do have a nice wireless phone charging pad, which is included on the XLE trim level. And you just kind of slide your phone inside of this, so it's going to be secured. It's not going to be flopping around or lose contact like it will in some other types of vehicles. You got two cup holders right there. More storage in front of that. Two more USB-Cs, a 12-volt outlet. And then if you press this button, this is kind of interesting. We have another layer of storage, which Toyota brands with hashtag hidden compartments. Kind of a funny little Easter egg and a nice place where you could stick something and no one's really going to notice that it's down there. Now, moving back here, we do have this electronic nub style shifter, just like with some other recent Toyota and Lexus products. It's got the same kind of operation. So you're going to press to the left and then pull back. That's how you're going to get into drive. And then you do the opposite to get into reverse. Once you go into reverse, you'll be greeted with this standard backup camera on the vast majority of models, including this XLE. I will point out that the XLE trim level does include front and rear parking sensors, so that's a nice touch, but the guidelines are not dynamic. If you want a 360 camera, you will have to spring for optional equipment on the limited trim level. And then for park, just to press the P, of course, and then right behind that you do have your automatic deploying electronic parking brake, as well as your brake hold function. Now, like I mentioned, at various points in this video so far, this is kind of a value-oriented trim level, and you have many of the features exactly the same as the limited trim level. One of those is your single-zone automatic climate control setup. Very easy to adjust your temperature right through there, your fan speeds. We also have standard 3-stage heated seats, which is a nice touch. Of course, you can get ventilated seats by going for the limited as well. And one of the other really nice and premium features I like is that we still have the cool ambient lighting. So as you can see, that's going to run all across the dashboard right through there. And you also have a little piece over here on this vent. Now let's go ahead and move on up here to our audio system. So LE and XLE share a 6-speaker sound system. So we'll go ahead and give this a sample as opposed to the JBL branded 8-speaker sound system on the Limited. Yeah, so overall sound quality of this system is pretty good. It's not going to blow you away, of course. If you really are into audio, definitely upgrade to that JBL. Okay, so let's also talk about the display since we're looking at that. This is an 8-inch display. This is your standard display on both the LE and the XLE. You also have an available 12.3-inch display, standard on Limited, and it is optional on this XLE if you want to spend a little bit more dough. However, this is a nice looking display. Toyota's really upgraded the resolution compared to their previous 8-inch displays. And also, most importantly, is they've upgraded the software. So this is the same software experience on both the 8-inch display and the 12.3-inch display. It's their new infotainment system. And you do have the built-in dynamic navigation, as you can see. You also have wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay. Rising above, we do have an auto-dimming mirror, 3 HomeLink universal remotes on the XLE. And we've got the standard version of the XLE, as in no optional equipment. So it does mean we've got the standard, just sealed off roof, but you can actually option on the fixed glass panoramic sunroof from the Limited to the XLE. Once again, if you want to spend a little bit more money and fancy this up a little bit, you can do that. However, this is going to be the most affordable version of the XLE.
All right, guys, you're probably curious about the rear space in this all-new Prius, though, because it has that new sleek, sexy exterior design. So is that going to negatively affect your rear space? And in some ways it does, but before I talk about that, I want to talk about your legroom. You're looking at 34.8 inches of legroom, which is about 1 inch larger than the previous generation Prius. Certainly, it's a fine legroom figure for someone of my size. I'm 5'9". This is Drew's seating position. I still have probably 4.5 inches of space between my knees and the seat back. My feet can easily slide up underneath the seat. Now, as far as your headroom figures, though, you're going to be looking at 36.4 inches of headroom. So this is an area that's reduced about an inch over the previous generation model. It's not awful, though. For someone of my size, it's perfectly fine. Now, if you're sitting at like 6'2", you might not be too comfortable back here, but overall, I'd say for the vast majority of people, this is perfectly fine, and of course, that is due to that lower roof for this all-new model. I do want to point out the seats are very comfortable, and as far as some of the features that you're looking at, no vents here, but we do have 2 charging USB ports. Those are the Type-C variety. We do also keep a center armrest with cup holders inside, which is nice. Turning to our door trim, we are going to have a hard touch door trim. This is, of course, the XLE version, so you don't expect that to be soft touch. But we do have a nice padded armrest and then a little bit of storage down below that. Now, walking up to the cargo department of the all-new Prius, we can open it just by locating the button right here. So you can see the Prius is a hatchback design, so it kind of opens up like that. I do want to point out the XLE model does not have a power tailgate. You can get that on the limited trim level, so if you go for that highest end Prius model. Now, as far as the cargo space is concerned back here, we don't have full measurements for the Prius, but we do know the figure behind the second row seats. We're looking at a little over 20 cubic feet, which is a reduction over the previous generation Prius model. Of course, you do have to pay the price for that sleek exterior design. That's going to come a little bit in terms of the space. The previous generation with the seats folded was sitting at about 50 cubic feet of cargo capacity, so I expect this one fully with the seats folded down, I'd say maybe middle 40s, like 42 to 45 cubic feet, which is still pretty good for a vehicle like this. Now, as far as some of the features are concerned back here, we do have a nice carpeting along the floor. We have an integrated cargo cover, and then if we lift up the cargo floor, you're going to have a little bit of storage integrated underneath it here. No spare tire. You're going to have a tire repair kit on this model. The seats do fold 60-40 split. In order to fold them, you're going to have to pull the little levers in the second row, or if you had the cargo cover detached, you could easily just reach up there and fold the seats down. The passenger seat is going to be manually adjusting across the Prius lineup. Then popping open the glove box. As you can see, inside of the glove box, we do have a good amount of space. It's enough for the cleaning cloth in here. Plenty of space for our coupons, that's for sure. So you can definitely fit those in there to save money on fuel and food. And then up here at the top, our mirror has a integrated, or our sun visor has an integrated mirror, excuse me. We also have lighting as well. We can detach it, and we have an extension in the end.
Well, taking off in the speedy new Prius.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to speed, I guess it's about your
relative,
definition.
right?
It's relative. The old one, of course, as you know, was one of the slowest vehicles basically in the universe. It was just under 10 seconds, 0 to 60, and this new model can do that same task in 7.2 seconds. So big difference, and that's thanks to a lot more horsepower on board.
Yeah.
So with this new 5th generation hybrid system, what's important to know about this is that basically everything is kind of bigger and more powerful. So you're looking at a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine versus the previous 1.8 liter. In addition to that, you do have a larger, more powerful electric motor and a more powerful lithium-ion battery. All together, 194 horsepower, which, like I was saying, is quite a bit of an improvement over the previous generation.
Yeah, and honestly, guys, taking off in this Prius, it was a little shocking. I mean, we already knew, we sampled this vehicle out in a studio shoot earlier this year, so we knew this was going to be a lot faster than the previous generation, but all of that electric torque from the battery really propels you off in a really good fashion. I mean, this Prius is no longer a lot slower than all the other Toyota hybrids. It's, no slower than like a RAV4 hybrid or anything like that. It feels about the same to me. There's 60. I mean, it's still not gonna, like knock your socks off, but for Prius, it's really good.
Yeah, for sure. And, like Mason was mentioning just a second ago, you can really feel the electric torque kind of get you off the line. I really like that feel because, of course, this is the hybrid model. It's not a pure electric or the plug-in model. We look forward to sampling the plug-in Prime earlier next year, but... yeah, so in terms of this, though, you still do have that kind of surge of electric torque right off the line, which really makes this feel spiffy. And then, once the engine kicks in, then it will get you up to speed quicker because it is a larger displacement than last year.
Yeah, so let's get into some of those technical details a little bit more. So like Drew said, we're looking at 194 horsepower. That is going to be for the front-wheel drive model. So what we're in right now is a limited front-wheel drive example. The all-wheel drive version is actually going to get you 2 more horsepower. I'm sure that's not a substantial difference to 196.
It is enough to go 0 to 68.2 seconds faster than this model, though.
Yeah.
Which would take you to 7 seconds.
Yeah, I imagine with the Prius Prime, we will have an under 7 seconds 0 to 60. 6.6 actually. So yeah, the Prius is getting fast.
Yeah, but in terms of the all-wheel drive system, this will work the same as in other Toyota hybrids. So the reason it does have additional horsepower is because it does have a dedicated rear electric motor that does, power those rear wheels when you have those situations where you're losing traction. Now, of course, when you choose a Prius, probably the first thing on your mind is fuel economy, but we're going to talk about that, of course, plenty of time a little bit later in the video. But for now, since we're on kind of a little bit of a curvy road, I do want to talk a little bit about dynamics because this is riding on a new platform. It's going to be more rigid. And also, they've lowered the battery pack to give you a lower center of gravity. And I think coming out here on the back road, you really can tell those improvements.
Yeah.
Everything feels pretty nice and balanced. Now, of course, it's not going to magically turn the Prius into a sports car. But, as you kind of round some corners, body roll is pretty limited. I'm really liking the steering. It's very responsive. It's still light, even now that I've toggled into the sport mode. But as you can see, it's actually really nice and responsive. You get a quick response as soon as you turn the wheel. And like I said, it's not a super sporty vehicle by any stretch of the imagination, but you have enough athleticism that combined with the additional power that you now have, it feels reasonably spiffy behind the wheel and enjoyable.
Right.
And then, of course, as far as your transmission situation, you do have eCVT, really nice and responsive, just like with other Toyota hybrids. You really don't have to wait for power or anything like that, like I was mentioning earlier.
Alrighty. So now I'm behind the wheel of the all-new 2023 Toyota Prius, and Drew and I were just talking about this off camera. I actually drove the Kia Niro here in California about 2 months ago, and that's really this vehicle's main competitor. So I'm intrigued to find out, what are the differences between the two, which one drives better, and that type of deal. Now, I will say, right off the line from that initial acceleration, I do believe this Prius is quite a bit spiffier than the Kia Niro, which is certainly nice. It definitely has enough torque to really push you back in your seat, which, in a vehicle that's very fuel economy focused, that's certainly something that's a nice bonus, that's for sure.
Right. And we're going to be heading back towards the city. Of course, the city is the Prius's natural environment. And, there's a lot of important things to discuss about the Prius in that regard. One of the things that we've been observing throughout this drive is just how aggressively this hybrid model turns off the engine and gets you into full EV. It's definitely the most aggressive Toyota hybrid in this regard. They really turn the engine off constantly, even when you're going very quickly. So, as soon as you kind of let off a little bit.
Right now we're in EV mode.
Yes, like we're driving 55 miles an hour. We're in EV mode, not using the engine at all. And you can, which Mason will demonstrate as we get back towards the city, like I was saying, but you can take off very easily in this and keep it in full electric. That's not necessarily the case in a lot of hybrid models. They'll get the engine on while you accelerate up to speed, but you can easily get this up to, earlier I hit, I believe 30 or 35 miles an hour very easily. As long as you don't mat the throttle, you can get up to speed, keep up with traffic, and be in full electric, which is something I really like.
Yeah, for sure. And in typical Toyota fashion, you're going to have an extremely, extremely smooth handoff between electric power and gas power. They really do it the best in the entire business. The Kia Niro was very smooth, I will admit, but this still is even a little bit smoother. The only thing I will knock it on is that the engine noise itself is actually more in this Toyota Prius than it is in the Niro, so it might actually be a little bit more noticeable when the gas engine is on versus in that model, because the engine is so loud. You're definitely not going to feel anything, but you can definitely hear when the engine comes on in this Prius, especially if you do a hard acceleration. But guys, enough about some of the electric components. Let's talk about just the overall ride and drive experience. Now, we've been driving it for about an hour this morning, this all-new Prius, and I've been nothing but impressed with the ride quality of this model. Certainly, we have a very smooth ride quality. This is, of course, a vehicle that's focused on being very comfortable. It's a Prius after all. It's not supposed to be a hard-edged sports car or anything. Despite its new exterior design looking a little bit more sporty, this is still a very comfort-oriented product, so it soaks up bumps very well, and we even have the larger 19-inch wheel option in this particular model, so I assume it would only get better if you go for the LE model with the 17-inch alloy wheels.
For sure, and California roads are notoriously pretty bumpy, so we are putting it to the test here, and it is handling it very nicely. It feels very solid. This new TNGA-C platform does have a little bit more rigidity, like we were mentioning earlier, for sports performance, but it's not rigid to the point that you're having a deterioration of ride quality. So I'm very happy about that. Now, I'm not going to keep you in suspense any longer. This is a Prius. What is the fuel economy, you're asking? Well, I am happy to report that this is actually the most efficient Prius ever. It does beat the previous version by 1 MPG if you choose the base trim level. So the maximum fuel economy is going to be the LE front-wheel drive trim level. That's 57 city, 56 highway, 57 combined. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you, that's pretty phenomenal when it comes to fuel economy of any type of vehicle. And like I said, even better than the previous generation.
It makes it the most efficient hybrid in the United States right now.
That's right.
Well.
Exactly. So if you're looking for a hybrid and you're looking for that maximum fuel economy, that model is going to be the way to go. Now, if you choose some different versions, that's going to impact the fuel economy, as you might expect. Choosing all-wheel drive brings it down just a little bit, and all-wheel drive is available on all 3 trim levels. Additionally, if you have the XLE or the limited trim level, those come with the 19-inch wheels, and that also impacts the fuel economy. So each of those is going to get a different rating. We'll display those on the screen, but as far as what we are in right now, that is the limited front-wheel drive, so that's going to take you to 52, 52, 52. Still a very, very solid number, even if you want to have the larger wheels and the more stylish design.
And while we may be in California reviewing this all-new Prius, we do want to bring our Kentucky element into it by doing our Slam Dunk and Airball, our Car Confections signature thing. I think our Slam Dunk easily has to be the styling for this all-new Prius. While the fuel economy is very impressive, of course, it is the most efficient hybrid in the United States. That's very impressive. I think the thing that stands out the most is the design, though. They were able to achieve that while still giving you a lot sexier of a design, dare I say. So,
and more power as well.
Right. So it is impressive that they've been able to give you the more dynamic and nice driving experience while not sacrificing the fuel economy.
Right. This is an infinitely more desirable vehicle than the previous generation, while still maintaining even a little bit improvement in the fuel economy department.
And our airball is going to be something that might be a little surprising. It's not that the fuel economy is bad, but I will say I would have really loved for the fuel economy figure and the LE trim level to maybe start with the 6. I know that's going to be very difficult to achieve, but they do have that new plug-in model coming in later, so if you want even greater efficiency and to travel more on full electric range, you can get the plug-in version of the Prius. But yeah, the fuel economy is a 1 MPG improvement over the previous generation
the previous
Prius
LE Eco, which was the most efficient version of that.
Which is not earth-shatteringly different. Alright, but let's go ahead and hop into the part that you've probably been anxiously awaiting. How much does this Prius cost? And we mentioned this a little bit at the very beginning of this review, was that this XLE model comes in at under $31,000 as a starting point, so that is, of course, very affordable. So the cheapest Prius you can buy is the LE trim level. That's going to start at $27,450. The XLE $30,895, and limited is $34,495. You can add all-wheel drive to any of those trim levels for $1,400. Final thoughts about this all-new 2023 Prius. Now, of course, we're here in Del Mar, California. It's beautiful out here driving this all-new Prius, and California is a huge market for this vehicle. This is a very popular product out here in California, and it's easy to see why. This Prius has always been known for having excellent fuel economy, a lot of practicality, while also being affordable and having that Toyota reliability. And really for 2023, they've capitalized on all of those elements, but they have added the additional factor of it actually looking pretty good and driving pretty well as well. So I have no complaints about this all-new Prius. It's actually a very, very impressive product because they've just improved on the overall formula in the areas where the previous generations of the Prius were weak. This one capitalizes on. Well, guys, that wraps up our in-depth review of this 2023 all-new and stylish Toyota Prius XLE. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, we would certainly appreciate if you hit that subscribe button down below. By doing that, you help us get invited to events like this in beautiful Del Mar, California, to show you all early access content on this all-new model. Anyway, we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.